Hey everyone. So today I'm going to be starting my kind of walkthroughs and series about capture the flags. So today this is just going to be the very first video, and I'm going to be kind of explaining what is a CTF. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Christian Dipert. I am the head of the MHS Hack Club, which is kind of nested inside of Computer Science Club. And yeah, so I'm going to be explaining what a CTF is to all of you guys. So if you do not already know, CTF does stand for capture the flag. And by capture the flag, you might already be thinking of this, where it is the physical form, and that is not what I will be talking about today, although it is very fun, and I do personally enjoy playing this type of CTF. But no, this is not what I'm going to be going for today. So the CTF I'm going to be going over is a sort of digital online CTF. So CTFs are essentially a way to practice your cybersecurity skills, your hacking skills, your defense skills, anything to do with computers, computer science, cybersecurity, anything. So the way it works is instead of in a normal capture the flag, you get an actual flag and you have to take it back. The equivalent of that is you recover these flags, and it's just the string. Usually it has some sort of flag like this. In this case, it's going to be flag and then brackets and then some sort of random text that will vary. And as for formats, there are 3 different formats. There is Jeopardy, there is HackQuest, and there is Attack and Defense. I'm going to be going over Jeopardy today. Jeopardy is the most used, best format, and honestly, any other format really does kind of suck. Sometimes Attack and Defense is fun, but that's usually only for very advanced people that kind of really know what they're doing. That's the only way it becomes fun. And HackQuest, I hate HackQuest so much. Anyways, so with the CTF, here is what kind of the challenge panel looks like. So as you can see right here, we have the name. It could be some quirky name that has to do with like literally nothing to do with the actual challenge, or it can actually contain very valuable things about the challenge itself. So this could be like it could maybe in the challenge, maybe they'll kind of reference a tool you might use, like with some sort of play on words. But yeah, so essentially it's kind of split into categories. So right here we have the tag of the category, and then it'll show the author, the person that made the challenge. And then there are hints right here. So hints most of the time do not cost points. So if you get hints, you should almost always use them to your advantage, because there is no shame in using them. And yeah, so I'm going to be going over kind of all of these little points right here. So once again, I show the categories, and then there's files. You can there's most of the time going to be files. And then the flag format, I'll also go over that. Point values. So there's up here, it'll show the amount of points. Usually with a Jeopardy style CTF, it's going to be like Jeopardy itself. The easier the question, it's going to be lower points. But then the higher difficulty of the question, the higher amount of points it's going to actually give you. So you're kind of having to work harder for that higher reward, so high risk, high reward sort of thing. And then the solves attempts ratio, I will go over this in a second, explaining why I even included this in the first place. And then yeah, so this is actually from Pico CTF. I will be demoing a live Pico CTF problem in this video, so stay tuned for that. So I'm going to be talking about the categories. So most of the time there's going to be 6 categories, and it will usually consist of intro, general skills, baby challenges, something to do with that. These are going to be very easy challenges. Cryptography, just as it explains, it's anything to do with decryption, encryption sort of thing. Reverse engineering, usually this has to do with some sort of code you're given, some sort of program that you have to reverse engineer and exploit yourself. Website exploitation, self-explanatory. Pawn binary exploitation. So a lot of people don't actually know what this is. Binary exploitation has to do with ELF files. So essentially executable Linux files. That is not what ELF stands for. It stands for like something like linked format, something like that. But these are essentially Linux files that you can execute, and these are usually on systems. They are usually set UID binaries, which is why this is even a category in the first place, because a lot of pen testers will use these to gain elevated privileges on a system. And yeah, so then there's forensics, miscellaneous. This category is kind of like a gray area. Usually it's not, sometimes it's not there, sometimes it is. It can be miscellaneous, it can sometimes be forensics in Pico CTF case and a lot of other CTFs. But yeah, so Intro. So the general skills category usually will contain sort of these kinds of things you're gonna have to do. So in the general skills category, you might have to read a file. You might have to convert integer bases, very basic stuff like this. You might have to know how to execute scripts, like very elementary, very basic stuff. So, and for cryptography, it's going to be, like I said, encryption, decryption techniques. So this might have to do with ciphers, like vignere cipher, Caesar cipher, vernam cipher, one-time pad, same thing. And AES modes, like block modes, like CTR, ECB mode. Those may sound very complicated right now, but you will eventually learn them if you keep doing CTFs. XOR, exclusive OR, encryption, RSA encryption, there's a lot of math behind that. And then differential cryptanalysis, that's the very high level. Usually that's kind of the highest level cryptography challenges you'll ever see. And yeah, those are the ones that if you manage to wrap your head around them and manage to kind of recover the flag, then you'll get a buttload of points. So yeah, and then for reverse engineering, you might have to find hidden things in a program. Like maybe there's like something way at the bottom, and then deobfuscation. So this essentially means prettyifying. So you're taking some sort of code that looks like gibberish, and even though it runs still, but it's not really human readable. So you might have to dissect it. You might have to get things that actually make it so that you can read it. And then using automated reverse engineering tools like Anger. This is a Python library that you can use to. It's essentially an auto-solving thing at its very basic sense. So it will take a binary. And this is very complicated. So you'll be taking a binary, and then it will actually run through and attempt to solve whatever kind of operation it is presenting to you. And then solving logic gates. I've only put this in here because I've only seen it twice, but this is usually the highest level you'll actually have to do. You might have to automate solving a massive logic gate. And this was actually present in, I think, Google CTF, where you were taking some sort of Minecraft knockoff had a massive logic gate you had to automate and solve. And yeah, so for website exploitation. So this might be something very basic, like finding things in the source code. Maybe someone just hid the flag in an HTML comment saying like, oh, wow, this is a very hard challenge to solve, and et cetera, et cetera. So it could be there. It could also be in different website files, like the robots.txt file, htpasswd, htaccess, .git files, like anything to do with that, any basic system files that have to do with like Apache, IIS websites. And then so these next ones are different types of injections. So SQL injection, cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, server-side template injection, and XPath injection. These are all different types of injections into server-side code that the server will actually process and run, and you kind of have control over what the server actually returns back. And then at the highest level, it's usually going to be deserialization, and then local file inclusion, and a lot of PHP exploits. If you don't know, PHP is a server-side language, so that is going to be falling under website exploitation. And then for PON, binary exploitation. Binary exploitation is usually the hardest category because it's very technical, and there's so much details. It incorporates so much programming knowledge. So yeah, you're going to be exploiting ELF files, and I will actually make a video on basic binary exploitation, so that will come. So this might be something basic like a string compare, like maybe you trace a program and you see it's running a string compare to some sort of password, and then all you have to do is just put that password that it's comparing to, and boom, you have a flag. And then buffer overflow, stack overflow, so essentially overriding an instruction pointer, RIP, EIP. And then shellcode, so you're writing shellcode to the stack and then jumping to it. This might not make sense right now, but as I said, I'll make a video explaining it. And yeah, so this is the hardest category, so just bear with me here. So UAF, use after free malloc exploits, return to libc, like calculating the base address of libc. Format string exploits, so essentially if a printf statement printf's a buffer without any sort of so it's not formatted correctly. And then return-oriented programming, so essentially using little bits and pieces of a binary to jump around and do crazy stuff. Sorry if that didn't make any sense to you, but this is just kind of what binary exploitation is. It's very difficult. I didn't know how to do it when I first started, so I guess everyone starts somewhere. And then for misc forensics, sometimes it's actually hardware. I forgot to include that in the last slide, but sometimes this is hardware. So this could be anything to do with files and hardware, anything. So this could be recovering a corrupted flag.txt file from like maybe you get a disk image and you have to recover the file. Repairing an image file with a hex editor. So maybe you have to use a hex editor to edit like the magic header of some sort of image to actually have it display properly. You might have to deal with Docker containers, packet tracing and analysis. You would use Wireshark, T-Shark, Network Miner for that. Audio files. You could use like Sonic Visualizer, Audacity. Maybe there's stuff hidden in a waveform. Maybe the sound waves actually hit their peaks, and then at those peaks, it could be any kind of character's ordinal value. That's usually very difficult. And then .apk files, so Apple AppKit files. Maybe you're gonna get one of those and try to recover the flag. Yeah. So I will cover problems from each category in live videos and sessions. It really just depends on what problems really that I think you could go over that I think are very detrimental in learning cybersecurity and hacking. And yeah, so for the second portion, I'm going to be covering the files to download section of the challenge panel. So this can usually be source code for websites and binaries. For websites, you might get like every single file that is on the website. And then for binaries, you might get the C source. And this can also be zip files, images, tar archives, packet captures for Wireshark and T-Shark. You might get Python scripts. And sometimes you might even just get literal data dumps with no file header. So you might have to actually identify what that kind of file is with nothing given at all. And yeah. So one way you can actually download this, if you have an Ubuntu virtual machine or any kind of Linux virtual machine, whether it be Arch, like Kali, anything like that, you can actually use wget, and then you can right click and then copy the link address and then paste that into the wget command. And it, as you can probably infer, wget means website get. So it will just download the file from that. And that's usually how a lot of people do this. I really highly recommend using a virtual machine if you want to actually do these sort of competitions. And yeah, so hints, as I said, they can sometimes cost points. Oops. If hints are free, they are your best friend. There's no shame in using them. I highly stress this. You need to use hints because sometimes you're not going to know where the heck to go. Like, hints have saved me so much time just by sitting there staring at the hint, wondering what it means, and actually making a connection in my head. And then, boom, I get the flag because of the hint. Like, they are so detrimental in your success in these competitions. And then for flag format. So different CTFs have different flag formats. So it's not always just going to be flag and then curly brace. Usually there will be curly braces though. That's kind of always what I've seen. So for Pico CTF, that's what it looks like. And then that's down under CTF and Seesaw CTF. So this is just a way you know what you're looking for. So like you could use a grep command to actually search through a file, search through text, and actually grep for those flag formats. And then boom, it's actually easier to get the flag. So for point values, this is pretty self-explanatory. I already covered this. Easy problem equals low points. Hard problem equals high points. Just kind of know your abilities, essentially. And then for the solves attempts ratio. So you can actually use this to gauge how hard the question is for its point value. And another thing I forgot to add is that you can actually see if there's any kind of red herrings. So maybe if you see that the solves attempt ratio is really, really low, maybe a lot of people have attempted it, but only a little bit of people have solved it, which means that people have tried to submit a flag that wasn't actually correct. And so if you're not aware of what a red herring is, it could be a fake flag. So sometimes challenges will actually give you fake flags, and then and they'll essentially try to trip you up. But if you see that there's a low solves attempts ratio, then you'll kind of know, okay, there's a lot of fake flags here. I have to like really know if this is the right flag. Usually a lot of challenges or a lot of CTFs won't really count off against you for how many times you actually try to submit a flag, but some of them actually do. So this is a very valuable thing. And then another thing you can also do as put on here is maybe if there's a low solves ratio. So if let's say in a challenge there's a like 32 solves and 45 attempts. That means that not a lot of people have actually solved that, and not even a lot of people have attempted that. Whereas for a 100-point challenge, there has been like 12,000 solves and 16,000 attempts. So you know that that challenge is most likely very difficult, and you can kind of know what numbers you can usually solve. Like maybe I can usually solve a challenge with X many solves, and you could kind of use that at your own discretion. So now I'm going to actually go ahead and demo solving one of these challenges from Pico CTF. So right now I'm currently in the Pico CTF gym. You can just go here with play.picoctf.org/practice. You'd have to make an account, and then you could go to the gym right here with practice. And yeah, so this is the challenge prompt that we've kind of talked about. So it's inspector, right? So as I said before, maybe this is actually going to give us some sort of hint about what's going to be on the website. So we know that we might actually be using inspect, and we know that this is web exploitation. And if we look at our hints right here, it says, how do you inspect web code on a browser? So we kind of have a very good idea of what we're going to be doing here. So let's go ahead and read our description. Kishore Balan tipped us off that the following code may need inspection, and we're given a link right here. So what we can do is just go ahead and open a new tab and paste this in and go to it. So we have our website right here. I made a website, inspect me. We could see if any of these buttons work. I use these to make this website, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? So let's just go ahead and inspect like it told us. So we're going to use Control-Shift-I. That is just the simpler way. Or if you want to, you can just right-click and tap inspect. So we can go ahead and look at our elements right here. Just get every single drop down that we possibly can. And we see HTML is anyways have 1/3 of the flag. So we're actually viewing the HTML source, and it is giving us a portion of the flag. So what I'm actually going to try to do is I'm going to copy this element, and then I'm just going to open up a Sublime Text document so that we can kind of keep track of our flag. So we're gonna go ahead and just put this right here. So I'll just label this as part 1. And I am not able to save that. Okay, so now we have 1/3 of the flag. So we're gonna have to actually find the second parts of the flag. So one thing I realized is peculiar is there's 3 sections of this. So we found the HTML section, which means we're gonna have to view the CSS and JavaScript most likely. So how are we gonna do that, right? So what we can do is go into the sources, and the source will actually show you the JavaScript and the CSS source. So we can go ahead and look at the CSS source, and this will actually show all of the coloring that's on here. So it says you need CSS to make pretty pages. Here's part 2/3 of the flag. So we have 2/3 of the flag now. So I'm gonna copy that and put this in our part 2. I keep trying to save that. And then now that we have the HTML and CSS part of the flag, let's go ahead and go to the JavaScript section. So we can go ahead and go here. So this is all the JavaScript that's behind the website. JavaScript sure is neat. Anyways, have part 3 of the flag. So now we have all parts of this flag. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and put part 3. And yeah, so this is our whole flag. So now that we have all parts of the flag, we're going to go ahead and just kind of slap this together. Copy this, and copy this. So here's our flag. Here's what our flag would look like. So we already see the Pico CTF flag format, and then it says true detective or just lucky. And then right here, this is a user unique hash. I'm not sure how the Pico CTF server works. This is essentially here for each user to make sure that users don't share flags. So if I were to send this to someone, if I were to try to send this to someone and see if they could cheat, then they would not be able to submit it because this is my own flag. So this is my own unique hash for this flag. So we can go ahead and copy this, and I will go ahead and go over to this, and I'm going to submit this. And before I do, we might as well just look at our solves attempts ratio real quick. So this has a lot of solves and a lot of attempts, which tells me that maybe this is a very easy challenge. Maybe I could just solve this like that, you know what I mean? And yeah, so we can go ahead and submit this flag. And it says, hooray, you have solved this challenge correctly again because I've already solved it. And yeah, so that's kind of what a basic version of solving a CTF challenge looks like. It will add 50 points to your Pico Gym score. In a actual CTF, it will add that to your score. You would add 50 points to your score. And yeah, so let me go ahead and just present this again. So So now I'm going to be talking to you guys about the most popular CTFs, kind of labeled by difficulty. So for the easy section, these are things like Pico CTF. Pico CTF is like kind of what a lot of people reach for. TMU CTF, this is hosted by Texas A&M University, and it's hosted by their cybersecurity club. It is very user-friendly, very introductory for people. And Over the Wire. Over the Wire is not actually a competitive event. It's just like it's kind of like Pico Gym, like in a sense. So there's no real leaderboard. It's just that you're given challenges and you could just solve the challenges yourself. And yeah, so let me go ahead and go to the medium. So for medium, we have the Hack the Box Cyber Apocalypse. I tried this and I did not realize actually how difficult it would be. So I came in kind of underprepared. And then Plaid CTF. Plaid CTF is hosted by Carnegie Mellon's CTF team. I believe their name is Plaid Parliament of Poning, I think. Yeah, that's what it is. So that's what that is. And FOST CTF is hosted by the CTF team FOST. And so as for hard or professional level, these are things with very high cash pools that give you like lots and lots and lots of moolah. So this is going to be Google CTF, DEF CON, and Real World CTF hosted in China. So these are all the ones that all of the these hold the world's best hackers that come here to train their craft and compete against people like them. And it's honestly really fun to watch because some of these challenges are actually covered by them after the CTF, and you could just kind of hear their thought process and how they go through it, and you can kind of learn from that. So why does it matter? Why do CTFs matter, right? So one reason why this matters is you can actually get employment from a lot of CTFs. Like a lot of competitions will actually, their prizes sometimes will be a chance to get an internship at something like Lockheed Martin. And yeah, so there's fun prizes as well. So I believe for Pico CTF, you can get $5,000 distributed to your team and a completely paid trip to Carnegie Mellon University. Another thing is you get to actually exercise key cybersecurity and computer science fundamentals and key hacking concepts that you can actually use later on in your computer science degree, whether you go into it or not. Maybe you're doing something with like finance. You can actually use Word documents. So there might be CTFs that have to do with Word documents, and then you can actually implement that. So yeah. And it's a constant learning process. So you're not going to know everything. Like you're not going to go into CTF knowing exactly how to do every single thing, because it's just not real. Like you'd have to be a completely omniscient being. You'd have to be like God himself to do that, right? So even the world's best are constantly learning. They're constantly thinking about they're constantly learning from all of these CTFs. And you can actually get scholarships. So for CyberStart, if you qualify for CyberStart, I think you have to complete 30% of the CyberStart game. You will actually get invited to the National Cyber Scholarship competition. And if you're a junior and senior and you place, I believe it's in like top 800 or something like that, you can get $2,500 in scholarships. And if you place top 30, you can get, I think it's like $4,000 or something absolutely like crazy like that. And yeah, so it just goes to show like kind of the opportunities that you're given with these CTFs. And I especially love National Cyber Scholarship because even if you don't place that high, you can actually get invited into their into SANS Foundations, the SANS Foundations course. So this is it's like a 3,000 euro course that teaches you the fundamentals of cybersecurity, and you actually can get GX certification. I'm not sure which one it is, but you can actually get a exam try and get certified just by placing moderately well in this competition. And yeah, so one thing I real quick have to talk about is, of course, integrity, right? So sharing flags is not fun, right? You're not learning anything. You're just cheating, right? There is no real backlash in sharing flags, but at the same time, it's really kind of killing the whole. It's killing the entire reason why you'd even want to do CTFs in the first place, right? So in my opinion, you really should not share flags. What you could instead do is maybe point others into the right direction. Maybe say, hey, have you tried looking at this yet? Or maybe this tool will help you or something like that, right? Sharing flags is not good, bad, very bad, end of story, right? CTFs are for fun and learning, not for cheating, right? Simple. So that's going to go ahead and wrap up this presentation. If you have any questions, you can actually email me. This is my student email, so please don't blow it up. Please don't do some stupid stuff, please, because it's literally owned by the school. I beg of you, actually. But yeah, so that's going to conclude today's video. I will release a lot of CTF challenges. I will go over some challenges from earlier CTFs that I've hosted myself, and CTFs that are hosted by like things like Seesaw and Pico and all of that stuff. But yeah, anyways, later guys.